Welcome to the call. We're just having people rolling in here over the next minute. What's up, Mr. Jordan?
How you doing, sir?
Great. How are you?
Not too bad. Just trying to get everything cleaned up before the holiday week.
Day before vacation, all that work getting done. Hey, Paul, got some new faces on here. Good to see you guys.
Hey, what's up, Coach?
And we got some old faces too. Amber, Kevin.
I've got a
Nicole.
new old face.
A new old face. Excited to have you guys in the coaching program and got some great people in this group. All right, I think we got enough people coming in here. We're going to go ahead and get this kicked off. And I am going to even go through this again. This is like one of those things that it takes a little while to get the process created. And hearing it again is awesome. And hearing it again after Thanksgiving, when you're coming back in to get that last push in before Christmas and the end of the year, will be even better. So I will tell you, just as a student, when I'm being coached or trained or whatever, I can tell you that repetition is key and has been the changing factor in getting major systems implemented, taking my real estate business to a high level. And if you guys don't know yet, I mean, my team right now is just me, because I wrote a book and I've had my team as big as 9 people. I've been selling real estate for 30 years, sell 100 homes a year for over 20 years. And I've had my team as big as 9 people. I've had my team as little as 1 person, relying on systems to drive the whole thing, and have been closing about 70 deals a year totally solo. So it's really about the systems, and I've kind of done that in a lazy fashion too. Like I do a lot of other things as well. I love coaching, love helping people. Started coaching with Tim Davis, that started this coaching division at Movement Mortgage 5 years ago. And I coached with him 10 years ago. And that was my first introduction into coaching. So I loved helping people and just helping people take a shortcut. Also went through some coaching certifications and learned that coaching isn't just teaching, because I was speaking at conferences and talking about our marketing and these systems and all this stuff. And this has been my life for the last 25 years. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to dumb it down to the most basic, simple level. However, the more you hear it, the more it will start to show up. The other biggest thing I'm going to tell you, and the biggest challenge, even just in this round of coaching with all of our clients, all my clients here at Movement, is systems. Setting them up are the absolute most grueling, hardest part of the process. But what you got to understand is, if I think we can say that McDonald's is probably one of the most successful franchises in the United States. Would you guys agree? I mean, for systems and models and getting the same thing every single time, they've got the franchise thing down. They are one of the most successful ones. Even though when I eat that quarter pounder with cheese, man, I get that same gut ache. My daughter made us run through McDonald's the other day, and I'm telling you, I just hate even going through that drive-through. I don't go there very often, but man, it's the same thing every single time. Starbucks has created a franchise and a system that you can even customize your order. Like next time you guys go to Starbucks, if you're standing in line or you're in the drive-through, listen to what people are ordering. It's like crazy stuff. Mine is a triple venti latte, or triple venti white mocha with cream, and maybe even sometimes I say, go ahead and throw in the low fat milk, and it get the same thing every single time. So think of yourself as, right now you're doing the E-Myth business, where your natural ability and what you've learned is taking you so far in your business. And you guys can all hear me, right? I know we got people popping in and out. Okay, cool. So your natural ability will take you so far. And once you can systematize what it is that makes you awesome, or what it is about your clients and your real estate agents and your financial, guys that bring you business, whatever it is that you're doing that makes them call you, if you can document that and systematize it, you can create clones of yourself. You can create an entire business that just clones you, so that whoever is in your system, they are you, and they're getting the same level of service. Now, the challenge is trying to get all that documented. It's the hardest thing you'll do in your whole entire business career. However, when I show you a couple of these systems today and you get this thing set up and then you can get it automated, then you're just hitting the button. And it's like you could feed in 10 people in one day and just hit the button and it starts. So where I'm coming from today is the system to create systems. Even though I'll be sharing with you one particular system, I put everything into campaigns and action plans. So whatever CRM you're using, wherever your contact records are, if there's any kind of campaign or action plans that you can start a series of events that's pre-programmed and you can just hit start, that's what I'm talking about today, to kind of put it into perspective, right? And you're not really customizing every single client to this plan. You have your standard of what you're going to do. My standard from the time I take an app until we get them approved, this is our standard. And I want this to happen within 3 days. And I want this to happen within 5. And I'm just kind of setting the stage so you guys can really grasp everything today, because you'll have consumers that don't get you the paperwork you need, right? So when those things happen, they're coming out of your mold. And what you're going to start doing over time is getting them in your mold. I'll give you an example on the real estate side. This may sound totally crazy, but I only show people maybe 3 houses on average, and they write an offer. And I have designed my system so that even when an out-of-town person comes into town, and real estate agents all the time when I'm sharing this will go, well, I mean, when I get an out-of-town person, I need to take the day off, meet them at the airport and work with them till 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night and show them 30 houses. No, you don't. That's the way you've been doing it. And it takes up your whole day and you miss your family and you give up your life and all that other stuff. So let's create the system that would still get them the same experience, the same results. And so for me, what happens is when they come into the airport, I give them an updated list in their email or whatever, print it out and hand it to them and say, guys, you get to drive around and check out the city, check out the neighborhoods, drive by this list. I'm on standby. You're going to go have lunch after you drive by all the properties. You're going to call me with the ones that made the list, and we're going to go out and look at those houses. Because really what happened was I realized that looking at 40 houses, they're so confused at the end of the day, it's hard to even pick one. So I narrowed it down to where I'm only showing them 3 houses, the 3 best ones. And 20 of them, they're just like, we didn't like the neighborhood. We didn't like where it was here. We didn't like where it was there. And they learned the city and they had some food and they had fun on their trip. And I've done this for years and there's nobody that's called me out. Actually, I was going to say there's nobody that's called me out, but my very last client that was a relocation here said, we kind of thought you were joking when they drove like 15 hours or something to come to Kansas City. We thought you were kind of joking when you said just drive around, but man, that process was so much easier. And of course it was, because they looked at 3 houses and bought one. So anyway, that's kind of the context that we're putting it in today. And when I coach, like whenever you guys tell me things are slipping through the cracks, or my LOA didn't do this and didn't check on that, all that stuff that causes bumps in the road that pulls you back into the transaction. Once we can start putting the system together and plug in those holes with those action items, that might be calling the title company to make sure everything's right before we get to closing to find out if it's right or wrong, right? And once your team believes in the system, and they trust the system and you trust the system, then you get to give up checking on them every day and going through your 20 things that you're wondering if they did. And so you're having another phone call with them going over the 20 things they did today or didn't do today, where if you had the system done and the system says it's done, then you're assuming it's done. Now, as a business owner, obviously when you're first rolling this out and with your employees, you can tell when things are running smooth. You don't have to check in on everything, but you can spot check a couple of things. once in a while. And if they mark something done but didn't do it, you can address that right away and go, hey, listen, we have to trust the system. So a lot of what I coach to comes from the E-Myth, E-M-Y-T-H, E-Myth principles that Michael Gerber wrote in E-Myth Revisited. I know the book's probably like over 30 something years old, but it is why small businesses don't work and what to do about it. And it is so basic. I was able to read the book cover to cover at least a dozen times and implemented that book. And then I ended up writing E-Myth Real Estate Agent with Michael Gerber. And that in itself is just crazy. I mean, I still look at myself as just a guy. I'm just one of the realtors that you guys deal with in your town, that I'm not even the ego guy that some of your top agents might be. And I understand what crazy world they come from because I've coached all the real estate agents at KW and at other companies as well. And, you know, when I say that, I've written a book with Michael Gerber and I implemented the book. It just, reality is I'm just a guy in Kansas City. There's nothing special here. I don't have some history that I came from or any of that stuff. I just did it. You know, I just like, hey, I just put systems in place. I want to make my life easier and I built a successful business. So that's where that's coming from. Before I jump into the content here, and it's really just going to be conversation style. We're just going through, this is really the first time I've actually done a webinar just on this particular topic, even though I coach to it all the time. It's getting the clients to be able to get their team to buy into to tracking everything and creating the system and then working through the process. Most people don't make it all the way through the process. It's too tough, too hard. They still got stuff scattered everywhere and they don't feel like they're organizing it, and they might give up on the system before they got it in place. So hopefully today I'll give you a little better overview that might get you excited about, all right, I'm willing to go into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of hell to create this stuff because it's going to make my entire life easier. And if I hadn't done this 25 years ago, guys, there is no way I would be selling 100 homes today. I mean, when I say I sell 100 homes, it's like selling 8 or 9, 10 properties a month and still going to ball games and still going to football games. Got to go see my Mahomes, you know, Dallas Cowboys, going to the game on Sunday, going to have a blast. As long as we win, I'll have that game. Yeah, you will?
Yeah, I fly out tomorrow to Kansas City.
All right, dude. You know what? I'm going to make sure you have my cell phone number. Text me and you can get in for some tailgating if you get to the game early.
Oh, awesome.
I'll get you plugged into how the Kansas Cityans tailgate here in Kansas City. It's the tailgate headquarters of the world, baby. So yeah, we'll do that. There's no way my life would not, I mean, think of any realtor that you guys are working with. And if they had 10 closings in 1 month, how freaking chaotic would they be, right? Or if you had 30 loans closing this month right now, how chaotic would your life be? So once you get these systems set and you just hit start buttons, it's like I'm not doing 20 things on one day to catch up to my to-do list. It's like I did 3 things on 3 files day 1. I did 7 things or 8 things on 4 files day 2, which there was just 2 items per file that needed to be done by the second day that the loan app was taken. So it spreads everything out over time to manage it. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. So let me go back to my question. Is there anything that when you saw this topic, you're hoping that you get out of today? Or is everybody just like plugging in going, all right, I'm just kind of seeing what we got going here. Who is this Brad guy? Or most of you only know me as Coach Corn. So it's my coach.
I mean, so I've been using the Move Home as a CRM and just trying to figure out how to set up good kind of schedules. So as you get leads, as you get apps, good ways to set that up so that you're, like you said, giving the same consistent product every time.
Yep, perfect. We will actually, you'll actually get a handle on that when we go through the stuff. Only I'm gonna share the information kind of neutrally because some people are using Move Home, some people are not. And I will tell you too that Move Home actually has the potential to be exactly what I'm running my real estate business like, the database that I'm running mine in. They do have campaigns or a series of events that you could set as a default and hit the start button. Unfortunately, it's not completely customized yet. So some, what I've had to do from database to database to database, and I don't choose my databases lightly. I want people to use the CRM or database. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. The one that you're going to actually go in every day and use and feed. And again, if you can find campaigns or action plans in there, that's probably a CRM or database that you could really automate your business with. Because like my CRM does all kinds of crap. There's like 10 tabs of all the different things that it will track and do and put this contract in there. I input people and start plans, and that's the only thing I use it for. So if my CRM is not allowing me to create my custom series of events, I might have to have that timeline where it kind of looks like a checklist. And then I'm going to manually put in each of those tasks, because you can manually schedule a call reminder. You can manually schedule a task to do something. You can do that now. So that's a little frustrating. However, when you have your checklist of say 30 items or 50 items, whatever it might be, if you're looking at a contact record and worst case scenario, I have to put those reminders in manually and put the dates to them. I'll show you what that looks like. So it's real easy to put. You don't have to think about, okay, should I make the call 7 days from today or 14 days from now? You have a standard that you're just going to dump them in and throw the dates in and not even think about it and then go away. So it might be the least perfect way to put every item in manually. However, putting in 50 items manually where you click a button, click a date, tell it it's a call, and put whatever call and go on, that's like 3 seconds. So if I have 50 items times 3 seconds, you start to add up, and it might take you 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to set up an entire campaign for each contact record, versus trying to remember all that stuff manually. And or what I figured out just through coaching people and myself, that if you do get busy, like you can handle 1 or 2, probably even 10 files a month naturally, because that's not too many files on your desk. You can open up the checklist and see what's going on. Problem is that it starts to get crazy around 20 or 30 closings a month. And if you had to open up 30 files to see the checklist, to see what's supposed to be done, what you find yourself in is a reactive mode business where you're always reacting to everything. It's like, oh, that was supposed to be done. Or you're going through the checklist and doing a couple things early. So if something's getting missed, you don't find out about until you open the file and see the paper checklist, or open up the spreadsheet and see the checklist. When you have it in your contact management system and you have a dashboard that tells you these things are tagged for today, you're just doing them right then and getting them done and getting them off your plate. So that's what we're kind of driving towards. Hopefully I've kind of explained that a little bit. And how many of you are getting just a little bit more excited about this call after that kind of opening? A little bit more. All right, cool. So yeah, so on that particular one, I believe Move Home right now, you might have to do those manually. And I know there's other things that other people are using that have those campaigns built in there. Now mine, if you understand campaigns of what I've explained so far, where I just say day 0, I want this thing to happen. And it's a to-do to drop something in the mail. Or in my particular case, it's actually a letter that prints to a PDF and goes to my printer and prints the label right behind it, or on a label sheet in order. And I can tell it, print this letter on day 0, remind me to make a call 7 days later, remind me to send a text message 14 days later, and then automatically send this email out 21 days later, which flows with whatever that plan is. Now in my CRM, I can actually copy that plan, and then I could add, like if I brought an assistant onto my team, I could copy my base plan that has me doing everything, right? I can copy the plan and I can add my assistant's name in front of all the items that they could do instead of me. And I'm starting to get leverage, so that when those tasks come up due 14 days from today, and it says, for example, my assistant's name now is Lori, then I just highlight Lori's stuff because her name's at the beginning of the task. I highlight her stuff and send her things, and I don't think about them anymore. And then I just do my things for the day. So her and I are both running out of the same system, But rather than assigning it and doing all this other stuff, it's just a task that pops up and it has her name on it or my name on it. And then as the team grows, we can just copy the plan and add somebody else in, or you plus the plan and add things that you might have been missing. You're either going to adjust that to the core plan or you're going to copy it and change it a little bit. Does that all make sense? So like if you guys if you have a plan for a real estate agent follow-up and it might have real estate lingo, and then you connect with a financial planner who's sending you business, then you can copy that plan, change the realtor lingo to your financial planner lingo. And instantly I just created a new system that took me, maybe 20 minutes of tweaking versus the 2 or 3 weeks it may take to put the original plan together. And I'll have plans for internet leads where it reminds me to call that internet lead every day for 3 days straight. And then I'll let it go out to a 5th day. And then I'll let it go out to like an 11th day. And honestly, there's some emails going out automatically for the full 45 days, like every 10 days. And those are just saying, hey, I've been trying to reach you and you're missing out on some good deals, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the 45 days, when that plan ends, it says the plan's ended. Now, what do you do it? Well, I already made 5 attempts to get this internet lead on the phone. I know you guys, hopefully you got realtors giving you internet leads because you hate them. And they hate them. That's why they gave them to you. So I can tell you all that stuff too. But we all hate those internet leads, trying to get them on the phone. If I've made 5 attempts and I didn't get them on the phone, they're just going on a forever email drip plan from that point on. Maybe I'll throw a call in there at 3 months and 9 months after that. But I am not going to, like some people keep all these people in their database and they make their people call through the list all the time, forever. Yeah, I already got 5 more leads the next day and 5 more leads the day after that and 5 more leads the day after that. If I make 5 attempts, I'm forgetting about those and then I'm just following the system on the next ones that come in. Does that make sense? So I have an internet lead conversion plan that is specific to any internet lead that comes in. If it's a seller that I've talked to that's really thinking about selling, we're just really starting the process, I've got a plan where I just run and it triggers me to call them every 2 weeks until they list, because some of them are 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, a month out, 6 months out. Now, if somebody's ready to list, there's another plan I'm calling them every 3 days there just to see if their house is getting ready to list it. So I have all these different plans. So I kind of just wanted to show you kind of where we're headed with this so you can connect the dots as we're going through the process. Has that triggered any other questions or comments or what you'd like to get out of today? All right, I'm going to share my screen on a couple things because this isn't a super complicated process.
Hey, Brad, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So you were saying that the campaigns that are in Move Home or any other CRM that we typically would use for follow-up with a new lead or to try to, stay in contact with a new realtor or that sort of thing. You're saying do exactly those same campaigns, but for maybe from first contact to until they sign a contract, and then another one maybe from contract to closing. And okay, so we just get our reminders and automatic emails go out and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
like from application until approval, and then from approval until they find a house, and then from the time they find a house until they close. And the reason why those are chunked out separate is because from approval to starting to look and having a realtor and going out and looking at houses, who knows what that time frame is, how urgent they are. You guys know how that flows, right? But from the time I take an application, we're getting them approved. So that plan's running on my perfect timeline of what would be the perfect loan process, right? Or application process. And then once that comes to an end, see, there's triggers in here to follow up with them and find out what's going on. So maybe towards the end on that loan app, you've gotten them approved. Of course, there's the call to get the approval. And then you might have in that system, like verify if they're looking now or if they just wanted to know what they qualified for. So if it got down to that, I'll have another plan that's just a generic, nothing to do with mortgages, just dripping on them to keep my name in front of them so they don't forget about me. And they say, well, that's great that we're approved. We actually are going on vacation next week. And, we've got a couple realtors we're talking to. We're probably going to start the process in a month or two and really start looking. So I'm just going to put them on a friendly reminder drip plan that might run, say, for a whole year. right? And that might run for 2 months and there's triggered calls in there. So let's just say you're calling them 2 months from now and that's one of your triggers. And you could even manually schedule a couple of specific things. Like if they said, we're going on vacation for a week and we're going to start in 2 months, I'll still start my generic follow-up plan that might have a call every 3 months, just so they don't forget about me, right? Because they're not doing anything right now. You're already working with them. So you don't need to call them every week. You don't need to call them every 2 days or anything like that. So let's just say my generic follow-up plans every 3 months. So I talk to them 4 times a year. Many times that could just be a voicemail, whatever. But they say, we're coming back in 2 months and we're going to get serious. I can still manually schedule a call 2 months from now, even though I've got another call kicking out in 3 months, but I can manually schedule that call in 2 months just to check back in with them. So you're following me so far? So then that triggers and you just call them up and go, hey, so how'd your vacation go? You know, blah, blah, because you got notes on your clients, that kind of stuff. And you're just checking in. So are you guys going to start the process? It's like, yeah, we got so much going on right now, though. We're trying to get this organized, that organized, you know, so we haven't really started yet. So I'll let that plan run. But if they came back and said, yep, we're ready, either do you have a realtor that you'd recommend, or they probably have a realtor friend or who, whatever. And it's like, great. So are they sending you properties? Who you working with? Oh, yeah, they're a great agent, you know, and you're going to grab their name and add them to your database and start them on a follow-up plan. That's, you know, a new agent with a buyer and following them through the process. So then I'm going to stop that generic plan on that client. And I'm going to start the approved to finding a home plan. So now they're approved and they're finding a home. Their approval's still good and all that stuff. And if I need to manually schedule in there when their pre-approval might expire, like 2 weeks before the expiration of their pre-approval, I can still manually customize a couple of things in there that just need to be done in a specific date. But in general, these are the things that are going to happen. Now that they're approved and they're starting to look, we're going to assume that they find a house in the next 30 days. So here's my 30-day plan. And at the end of the 30 days, it might say plan 30-day plan ending, start the 30 to 60-day plan. So now when that comes to that, it's like, I'm not thinking about this client 30 days from now that they've been looking for 30 days and haven't found a house yet. And that trigger comes up and I'm going to start the 30 to 60-day plan. But in my mind, I'm also kicking into gear like, okay, so they've been looking for 30 days. They're probably getting a little frustrated, worn out, you know, and when I start the plan again, it's a reminder for me to know what kind of conversation I'm going to have with them on the next phone call that might pop out. So those plans are in chunks based on where they are. And if you guys ever have questions about any of those, I mean, my brain thinks in terms of systems and plans and where to chop things off and start a new plan. So there's just stuff that runs through my process. And until they finish that point, if you got them pre-approved in 2 weeks, then that plan's going to stop and you're going to start the next plan. You just cut everything off and delete what hasn't been done yet, start the next process. And then of course, there's from the time they get their contract accepted till close. And what many times what I find when I'm coaching people is that loan officers is that the realtors aren't involved in that plan, like actually picking up the phone and calling their realtors. So the client's contact record is up there and in their plan, it says follow up with their realtor. And or you also have their realtor in your database and there's another plan running for your real estate agent that is from contract to close. And it's just like your Friday updates or a phone call to just touch base or, you know, that kind of stuff, a trigger, a handwritten note. So if I've got my client who now is approved and they've got a contract and we start that plan, it says the first task on there says add their realtor to the database and start them on the contract to close plan for realtors. So I add the realtor because my system told me to do that. And then I start that plan. And the first step in the realtor's plan on contract to close is send them a handwritten note and congratulate them on finding a property for them. And it's like, how many times do I get a note from a lender selling 100 homes a year saying, hey, Brad, congratulations on finding the Smiths a house. We're looking forward to working through the process smoothly. I mean, it's like, geez, if my system told me to do that, I'll do it every single time. And I'll do it with a lot of realtors. And you guys are going to take over the real estate space. I mean, you're going to take over their business. So was somebody jumping in for an additional question on that? And also, did that answer your question a little more clearly, Kevin?
Yes.
Awesome. Anybody else have something to throw in there? All right, are you guys looking at my screen now where it shows step 1, step 2, step 3?
I can see it.
Yeah, okay, I know. Is it, it's pretty small, isn't it? Or did it come in okay, decent size? Can you guys see it a little bit? Oh. All right, I thought I had unlimited time here. I don't know why it's giving me the 45-minute thing. All right, I am going to see if I can. I wanted to open up my pictures and see if I could make those bigger for you. But actually, if you kind of see the process, you're gonna see what you need to see, and you guys can still see me on your screen too, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So here's like kind of what this process looks like and how I take people through creating the perfect process. First of all, you can start with a standard, just what is my paper checklist of from the time I do this until this gets completed. You can start with that as your core. And the way I've explained it to a lot of you is if you just drew a line on a piece of paper, like really just here's my line on a piece of paper, and here's the beginning and here's the end, and I'm going to have 10 touch points throughout this process. And you could put like, this is to make a phone call, this is to write a note, this is to check the information on the application, make sure we've got everything we need. This line down here might be call the client to make sure we have all the paperwork that we need. And you just do whatever that it takes you to get it done. So you get to that point and we should have all their information by this point to hit my standard of when we can get them approval. Well, they're still missing 5 documents. So again, I can go into that plan and I can manually kick those things back out after I've talked to the client and said, we really need to get those 5 things if you want this pre-approval. And I can probably get you that pre-approval in a week based on your system if I can get those 5 things today, because this is the cutoff point where we're not going to get it in a week now. So if they say, well, I got to get this and that, and then, so I might bump everything out another week and add a manual step in there in 3 days to see if they got their 5 things, right? I might also throw a trigger in there while I'm thinking about it to call the realtor in 3 days and let them know that we've requested this stuff. And now it pops up on my to-do that, oh, call the realtor. So I go to the database, pull up the realtor, call them and go, hey, just want to keep you in the loop. We were missing some documents. They said we'd get them in a few days. We don't have them. So I'm not, I may have told you somewhere along the way, I was going to have this approval on this date. Well, that has been bumped out now at least a week based on not having these 5 documents. And I just wanted to keep you in the loop. If you have a way to get them to get me that, then we can get this thing back on track. So right now, my new target date is this date based on your plan and when it's ending, right? So think about not having to think about that, and that your system's just telling you to do it. And you're just putting your thoughts into task and reminders. So you don't have to think about it today. And you can go have Thanksgiving, you can watch some football, you can come to Kansas City and tailgate in the happiest tailgate city in the world. And then you come back on Monday and it's like, call the realtor and let them know you don't have your 5 things. It's like, so cool, man. It's just freeing. And it allows you just to enjoy life and work a little bit more. So when you're looking at this, what I usually tell people on this timeline, it's this first thing you see here. It's where it says step 1, looks like a notebook piece of paper and a whole bunch of handwriting on it. What that was anybody that's involved in my process. So if you have an LOA and if you have a processor, then they're all going to do this for you. And I know this sounds crazy, but this is your business that is in their hands and they are processing your files. And when you talk to these people, they may not even be like local, but when you talk to them, you can say, listen, I just went to a webinar today with Coach, and we're about to make all of our lives easier, because once you get this system in place, and even though I say you might be sending your processor task list, and they may already have it on their checklist, it's just part of your process. And pretty soon they're going to love working with your files, especially if you're sharing anybody, you're sharing LOAs and you're sharing processors. They're going to love seeing your stuff come in because it's organized and you're checking on them. You're not like hounding them. That's what they hate, is like getting that call. And it's like, what's this? What's that? Has this been done? Has that been done? If your system says to do it and they've checked it off as done, just say, all you have to do is let me know that these items I sent you were done or where they are in your process. And then I don't have to bug you. Right. And then there is maybe a call in to just check on things too. So what I've done every time, whoever's on your team, and I'll give you my example in real estate, because you guys can share this stuff with your realtors too. When you're getting one-on-ones with them, say, man, this system thing, Brad Korn's a realtor in Kansas City, he shared his systems. Use me like to leverage your relationships with them and talk real estate language. What I did in my real estate team is I had my buyer's agents write down everything they did for 2 weeks. I had my assistant write down everything they did for 2 weeks. I wrote down everything I did for 2 weeks. I was the listing guy. And then I also wrote down what I thought my buyer's agents were doing every day and what I thought my assistant was doing every day, because it's my business, right? So I had a page for everybody and I had them tracking for 2 weeks. And I don't make it as simple as possible. I don't need it in organization. I don't need it in order. Just every time you're doing something, write it down. I know it's going to suck for 2 weeks. And usually it takes you 2 weeks of asking them for it before they even start doing it. So it really takes 4 weeks to start this. That's why I say it's very grueling, because you'll check on in all week. So have you been tracking everything? Oh yeah, no, I forgot. I don't carry that notebook around. Okay, can you do better this week? Like, it's going to make our lives so much easier if we just fight our way through these 2 weeks to just document everything. Now, I'll give you a specific script that has come up in many coaching when I'm coaching, creating these systems, is you tell them, if we were to set a goal this year, like I'm going to hit President's Club, unless you're already in President's Club, then you're hitting the next club, right? That if we hit that I'm going to send you on a vacation, I'm going to send it on vacation, or you could all go on a cruise together or something. And if I sell $60 million worth of loans, then I'm taking everybody on my team, and that's you, the LOA, and you, the processor. I'm going to buy you guys all a cruise ticket and we're going to all take a week off. So if I did that, I'm still going to pay, or your company's still going to pay you while you're gone, because we're going to hire a temp agency to fill in your spot while you're gone for a week or 10 days or whatever, that we're going to hire a temp agency. So that temp agency needs to know every little detail. Like, I want you to write down every detail to that point, as if we were going on a trip and I was giving you a paid vacation, because everything's going to keep rolling while we're all gone. And they're going to sell another 10 loans while we're gone that week, right? Or close another 10 loans. So that's the mindset you want everybody in, that they're really tracking every detail. I say it like that because a lot of times when people present this without that kind of stage set, they think they're being ousted. They think they're about ready to be fired, and you want to get all their stuff that they do or their checklist out of them. This is all to make their life easier, so that you are going to love it when you get my files, and you're going to be able to process them in half the time that you process anybody else's, because we're going to have a system, a machine run it like a Starbucks, right? So the first thing we do is, once you get through the 2 weeks, which is the most grueling part, everybody's documented everything, you get their pages from them. And then if you take your book of what you thought everybody was doing, and you take their page and lay it next to their page in your book, cross off the duplicates in your book that they had on theirs, right? When you get done, anything that's not crossed off on your list is where things are falling apart. You guys follow me on this? That's the holes, that's the gap, that's the frustration. Because what happens is, people are super busy. They've got a lot of stuff going on. And you may have heard this before, maybe not, I don't know. But when you onboard somebody or train somebody, guys, just think about when you onboarded at Movement. If you can remember 25% of what you had thrown at you when you first came to Movement, you're doing pretty dang good. There's a lot of stuff that's available here. So most people don't remember more than 25% when they're going through a training. You know how I train new people? Say, for the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to tell you anything. Figure out what you can figure out. I'll pay you all day long, even if you just sit there in front of the computer and just try to figure things out. That's my investment, is to figure out where their baseline is after 2 weeks. Because most people can figure a bunch of stuff out before I even went training on it. And then I'm only training them on the 25% technical stuff they really didn't know. and they figured out the rest. And sometimes they figure out a faster way to do something than I was doing it my old way. So I like to let them have them let them learn things for 2 weeks, give them free reign, and then I really jump in. So I know that sounds like a weird onboarding program, but it has worked for me perfectly. My best assistant, 2 weeks, she had almost everything. I don't even know if I even had to teach her anything. She figured it all out. And then she was the best assistant we ever had. Okay, so let me get on to step 2. Make sure I don't go over our time too much here. So step 2, what we do is every line, every item, action step goes on its own sticky note. And I actually, where did they go? So here are the sticky notes that I actually took a team through on all their processes. These little batches are each individual process that they went through, right? And what we did was we wrote each individual item. I mean, just something as simple as the MLS intake form, right? Well, that's what somebody wrote down. I get the MLS intake form and I fill it out. So I take all those items and put them on a sticky note. And then if you look at step 3 on the screen, that is that top row. And I don't know if it shows my cursor here. Oh yeah, I know there's like a pen that I can use. Let me see if I can do this without losing everything. Spotlight. All right. So this right here was one process. This might have been from the time we started working with the buyer until we found them a house. This was from the time they find a house until it closes. This was from the time we took a listing till it gets an offer. This was from the time it gets an offer to closing. This was our client appreciation party. So we start 3 weeks in advance to start promoting that. Parties right here in the middle. And then this is the after follow-up of the pictures and everything of how much fun we had and sending out to the people that missed out. So we have processes for everything. So if we're going to do a client appreciation party for somebody or a group of people, we start that on our plan and then kicks it into gear. So we do housewarming parties for the buyers when they close, when they sell their house, and you guys can do this too. And that house that goes on their contact record. We start the housewarming party, and it starts with at closing, ask for their list of people. But a week before that, it sent them an email and said, hey, we're going to be asking you for a list of 30, 40 people that you'd like to invite to your housewarming party, right? And then there's a call 2 days before closing from somebody. It could be our assistant that says, hey, just following up on that list, make sure we got everybody that you wanted to get an invite to your housewarming party. Because then when they get to closing, we're going to ask them for that final list, or we bring the list and say, hey, here's everybody we have for your party. Is there anybody we missed? Once they close, we let them know they're going to get a trigger in 30 days that says, hey, are you all unpacked and ready for your party? Your party's in 2 weeks. Also along the way, we're sending invites out to their friends and family from us with our branding on it, with your guys' branding on it. And you could have the agent co-opt on it too, and this is part of your system. And those invites go out, and as they register, they go on a different plan that says, just reminding you about the party. Hope you got it on your calendar. The other plan that's still running is saying, hey, we don't want you to miss the Smith's housewarming party. We're hoping you can still make it, and all that other stuff. So that's all running up until the party date. And then after the party date, that plan's still running. It's send pictures to the realtor, send pictures to everybody that attended on what they missed and how much fun it was. And it's a flyer. So there would be a to-do in there 2 days after the party that somebody on your team, whoever's in charge of making pretty flyers, it says to do, make the picture party flyer, get it ready. And then 3 days later, it says mail the picture party flyer. So the system just keeps everything rolling, so you get the same experience every single time. So that's what those sticky notes were doing. And I'm going to tell you, if you guys can do it by Zoom somehow, I know in person, when I had my whole team there, when we would put those sticky notes up on the wall, there's actually another picture down here towards the bottom. I don't know how much of my screen it's actually showing. And this is the other part. I always forget how to get back to my mouse. There we go. Remote control, maybe. No. I want to get back to my mouse. Redo, spotlight, stamp. Oh, mouse. There we go. All right. So down here, and I don't know how small this picture is, but you can see all these little sticky notes on the window. And that is the big old monster team in Chicago that I went to their team, and for 3 days, we created all their systems and we built them all out, everything that they did, client appreciation parties, all that stuff. So on that sticky note, once your team is putting all those up in the order that they go, and you're working with your team on from the time we take an app until we get them approved, and you're involving your team in the process, what we did was we would write the name of the person that was supposed to be doing that item. Oop. Let me get my spotlight on here. Yeah, it's not working. All right, it's still on mouse. Come on, give me spotlight. Yeah, it's all right. I got the name at the bottom corner that we put in when the team gave us all those steps. We said, all right, who does deliver the booklets? And that would be Lynette or Sonia, or it happens within 5 days. I'm sorry, that's what it happened. Here we said the standard is that those booklets are dropped off within 5 days. What's behind the step 2 is the name of the person that's responsible for that. And so we went through everything that had a time frame on it, gets that time frame put on it. So if I had this item here and this happens within 10 days, then we'd move it down the line to the process where it goes. That's why we have the sticky notes, so we can move stuff around. You can add things that you might have forgotten. You can pull things. You might talk to your team and go, all right, so the coffee cup with chocolates and a balloon dropped off to their work. And your team may say, listen, we're processing 50 loans a month. That's not working. We're not doing it. And it's like, are we getting any benefit from it? If not, okay, let's take that out. We can take that step out. But a lot of times you're adding some extra steps in that you would like to do. And then let me kind of bring this to a close. Once you get these in this order. So I've got this stack right here is in order from the first to the last step. Once I get that in order, I just take this one, this sticky note off the top. And if you see this spreadsheet down here, the very first line is what this item is right here, right? Then I go to step number 2. That was the next step that comes off. That goes on line number 2 in the spreadsheet. Then I take the third thing off. That goes on line number 3 of the spreadsheet, right? So you take those sticky notes in that order and you create them in this spreadsheet form. Oh, there we go. Got it. That's this line right here. This is all of those sticky notes put in order. This right here says the day. So this says 0 days, 0 days. This says 1 day after, 2 days after. This says 4 days after. This is 7 days later. So we put the days in there. And then the last thing I did was everybody that's on my team, I've got their column with their name on it, and we put the X's next to the people's name that does that item based on who we had on that sticky note. So now there's the perfect process. And if you see Danielle, she's our assistant. She's doing the first 3 things that come off of that list, but Sonia might be helping. She was kind of overseeing the admin team. She might be helping with that first thing sometime. But our buyer's agent is doing almost all of these items because this is the perfect buyer process for the corn team. So my buyer's agent is doing all this stuff. And if you'll notice my name here, this is Utopia, is that Brad Korn does not have any X's in his column at all. So that's where you eventually get leveraged on certain processes where your team knows who's doing what. Next thing, your LOA just can't handle it. They can't keep up with you. You're too successful and they quit. Well, you might have to like move these X's back over to your column for a week or 2 until you get another LOA, right? Or they give you another processor, you can just change that name, or you expand where you get 2 LOAs, you get a junior LOA and an LOA. You can start taking some of those X's off your LOA and giving them to a junior so that now they're leveraged, and you can expand and contract your team with an instant snap of pulling up the spreadsheet, moving the X's and printing it out again and handing it to everybody and going, here's your new job descriptions until the next leverage piece is added. Does that make sense?
Can you email us a copy of that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give you this site where you guys can get a little more information on it other than just looking at a picture. And it is, if you go to eMyth Real Estate, or actually it'll be, let me give you the easiest way to do it. Go to coachkorn.com. So it's coach with a C, corn with a K, coachkorn.com/. EMYTH, emyth /free stuff.htm. Sorry for all the URL. Got it?
No.
Oh, in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the chat while we're sitting here talking as well, so you guys can pull this out of the chat box. www.coachcorn.com/emyth/free stuff.htm. So that is actually going to take you directly. Oh, I just went to Kevin. Kevin got his direct message in there. He's keeping all the secrets to himself. So I'll share them with you guys too. There we go. So typically now why that's so long is if I sent somebody to emythrealestateagent.com, this screen pops up with the fill in your name, your phone number, your email, click submit, and you'll be taken directly to this free resource site where you can download all my stuff for free. It's all there. So as a real estate agent, I'm collecting real estate agents' names and addresses for referral business, right? And I'm dripping stuff on them because now they went onto my campaign that automatically started when they clicked emythrealestateagent.com. It put them into my CRM and it started the agent referral drip plan. So I send them something, the first letter that goes out automatically or email says, hey, I'm going to share one idea with you every month to help me sell 100 homes a year. Look forward to being available for any referrals you have coming to Kansas City. And then they get a monthly email with different things that I just copied and pasted off of this page. So they actually see everything that they're about to get, and it's there as a resource page. And then I send them pieces of it for the rest of the year to brand me as their Kansas City guy, right? So at Keller Williams, it's one of the regional directors. I was on a call this morning because I'm still active in real estate. I just do this like 3 days a week. I am like solid on with you guys, helping you with your businesses. My business is running on autopilot, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So anyway, but one of the big regionals is on there that I knew when he was just an agent way back in the day. And first thing he saw my Zoom window. And so this is like all these leaders around Keller Williams, and this regional director, who's our guest speaker on this call, goes, hey, Brad Korn's in the room. Hey, how about that? Our Dallas Cowboys are playing against you. He's from Dallas, right? Dallas Cowboys are in Kansas City. I said, are you coming? We're going to tailgate if you are. And I'm telling you, that exposure on there is just like, wow, if somebody had to refer somebody to you in your area, and you guys are in masterminds and Zoom calls and all this stuff, and they remember you, those loans are going to come to you as real estate business comes to me. So anyway, I set this page up so that you guys have access to everything there to kind of plug around. And I actually am going to put, you guys should all have my cell phone number, but I am going to put my cell phone number in here because as you go through this stuff, I don't want you to try and figure it out. If it's confusing or you're not sure what this means, pick up the phone and call me. I'm your coach. So this is not just a once a month kind of phone call thing. I'm available for you guys as often as you need, which most coaches can't say that. Most coaches are just like, their schedule's so tight. And believe me, 3 days a week, my calls are back to back, and I might not be able to answer your text right that minute, but my system and my world is so automated that I have free time on my calendar to be able to just pick up the phone and return calls. So any of you can contact me as much as you need to. Most of the time our calls are a quick second, you got clarity and you're going to move on. I mean, Kevin, you figure out things pretty dang quick. Every time I kind of mention something, you get clarity on it and you're like, yep, got it. And you don't need a half an hour call on something like that. And we don't want to spend your half an hour call on something that we can get real quick either. So I want those to be very on purpose. So anyway, guys, this is kind of the overview of what this process looks like and how you can automate your business, and you start to eliminate all these things slipping through the cracks. The biggest challenge is getting from that notebook, getting from right now today to document it, to get it on the sticky note and get it into a campaign or action plan that you can use. That took me years to figure out, 6 months to a year to create a plan. Although I have probably about 1,000 plans, different types of plans in my database, where it's from a conference or it's to mortgage brokers or it's to realtors. I mean, there's just hundreds and hundreds of plans in there. And now I can create a plan like in a couple hours, and what I do, this is one point I really want to make clear, and I'm glad I remembered to say this. Write everything out on paper. So actually, here's how I want to finish up today and give you guys some like real clarity on how would you do this. Get my cursor back. All right. So this is actually from one of my clients that's a loan officer here at Movement. And let me see if I can clear out my chicken scratch here.
Brad, is on the site that you gave us, is a lot of the stuff downloadable, like that
Yep.
already put together, what we saw earlier that had the
It should
X's in the columns?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
There's webinars on there where I'm doing this type of format. If you just want clarity on it, there's some things that you can just download and document. A lot of this system one, I haven't really I don't know if I have downloadable stuff on there. I have those pictures on there because most of the time I have to explain this to people. So whatever you can't find, you let me know, and I will create whatever I need to create to make it easier for you to get it, if that makes sense. So here's a sample, guys. This is one of my clients now that actually made it through part of the process, and it probably wasn't as detailed as the notebook and everybody on her team doing that, but she really wanted this 33 touch system in place for what is she going to do with this realtor to keep in touch. And this is like a first stab. And I want to show you, like, as you're thinking about plans, why you want to write it out on paper first in a timeline. So let's just say from the time I meet a realtor until I start, get business from them or my ongoing relationship, I would love it to look like this. How often you're going to call them, and just put like, I probably need to do something about every week to get mind share. So just draw your every week dash for the whole year. So you're going to have 52 dashes. Now what you do is you go, all right, I don't want to be a pest. So let's divide this by 4. We'll add 4 phone calls in there. So that's going to be a phone call every 3 months, right? And then let's at least get one. 3 months is a long time. So let's every month and a half in between the phone calls, right in the middle of each phone call, grab the closest dash and put a personal message, direct message through messenger, text message, email, but it's going to be me typing it out, something specific to them. So now I got 8 personal touches on these 52 touches. Now I can just fill in like an email, something about the website, maybe your loan calculator. Got a question from
My
Jeff?
coaching call, Brad.
Yeah.
Am I calling any agent?
Calling the agent. Absolutely. Because how many real estate agents do you guys have on your list that haven't heard from you in 6 months or a year even, right? We're kind of waiting for them to call us. This is your relationship plan. If I were a loan officer and I wanted to be in relationship with a realtor, I'm at least going to call them once every 3 months, like a phone call or a coffee or whatever. Well, the phone call, I always go for a coffee meeting or a lunch meeting or something, right? If you met with Brad Korn 4 times a year, you may not be getting all my, yeah, go ahead. Oh, you might just still be unmuted. But if you got Brad Korn doing 100 deals a year, I mean, if you can get 4 appointments with me a year, great. If those 3 of those phone calls are just like, hey man, this week's really crazy, but hey, I just appreciate you checking in, but you get 1 a year, that might even be enough. But you do that for 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden you're the first person I start thinking of, and you just start accumulating my loans. You can steal me away from anybody over a 3 or a 4 year period. And I know that sucks, but it's like my automatic just goes to where I just automatically send people all the time, and my brain's just trained that way, and it's in my system. The LOs that I switch business over to have made an impression over a longer period of time. So I start adding their stuff into my email, because also as time goes on, the guy I've been using all the time starts to get a little complacent, and he just knows he's getting all my business. He or she knows that they're getting all my business. So somebody can easily come in. I think you can take business away from anyone after 3 to 4 years, because everybody gets pretty complacent by that point. I had one loan officer at Bank of America probably 20 years ago that for 7 years in a row, until he moved from Kansas City to St. Louis and moved to a leadership role, He had a bat phone for the quarantine. He got my loans for 7 years because every time I called, he answered the phone. And I mean, he actually took over the #1 top Bank of America sales guy or whatever for the year and won the big award because he got probably 90% of my business. My 70 or 80 sales pushed him over the top and he beat out the guy that had the spot locked up forever. I'm kind of surprised that just my loan, I would have been enough to push somebody over the top, because I think every agent should be selling 100 properties a year. They're working too hard and not focused on the right activities if they're not. All right, we're at 1:30. So let me show you this example. So this is how this came in. Reconnect letter to reconnect with the realtor, a phone call, a branded newsletter, a text, happy whatever day it is, handwritten note, pop by, link to the website, phone call. So when I saw this, it hurt to read it because I mean, how could you do this with 20 different realtors? It's a phone call and then a personal text and then a handwritten note. The handwritten note was in here like 6 times. So once you get a relationship with somebody, you probably don't have to write a note 6 times a year to keep their relationship. In fact, now they're going to start wondering why you're writing so many notes. So this is great though. You got to start somewhere. Now, what can I automate? And if I had way too many personal touches that makes it, there's not enough time to do it all, then I'm just going to take a few of them out. So eliminate half of those personal touches and add in an email or I call it a sticky site, something sticky on your website, like a loan calculator or an online application or something like that the realtor might use. But I still got all those other personal touches in there. Where I modified this plan was I added the day of when this would happen. So I took basically a year and see how many things were on there. I ran out. I started at day 0, then 11 days later, 22 days later, 33 days later, and I ran out the whole year and there was still some extra stuff in here. So, I mean, that was more than 33 touches. And as I put that stuff in there, I put in another column, what was a personal touch and what was automatic. And if you can look down this column, look at how many personal touches are there. I mean, you're talking right here, 3 personal things that you would have to do in 33 days. That's just not going to be manageable with a lot of realtors. You could start that way until you get your realtors in there if you really wanted to make that personal touch. This particular loan officer does make a lot of personal touches with the real estate agents, and she has good business coming from that. I would eliminate probably 60% of these personal touches and just put in some more drip plans, but I would leave in at least a third of those personal touches. So I would probably eliminate the note cards and about half the calls, and I'd probably have 2 pop buys a year, maybe 3. So you can design that plan when you write it out on paper. I know you're looking at a spreadsheet right now, but that's how I design a plan. It always goes in this form first, and then I create the campaign. So the campaign, here's my checklist. If I was manually putting this into Move Home right now, I'd be looking at the realtor's contact record, and I would just go day 0, send the letter, 11 days later, make phone call. So I could put all this in about 2 or 3 minutes in an individual task campaign without the customized one. If I can create it all, save it, and then just start it, and day 0 starts on that day I start it, beautiful. Now you've got 2 seconds involved, and now you just have to rely on the task list. All right, I'm going to shut up for a minute because I'm at 1 hour, and just answer any questions that you guys might have. Or did I do a pretty good job of breaking it down to at least grasping the concept and go, wow, I need this to settle in and kind of absorb and see how this looks, right? So you can bring this back to your calls. Call me if you need some clarity. And on our individual calls, we can really start tracking, getting those people to track what they're doing for you so you can create your perfect process. Good stuff?
Yeah,
All right.
good. Thanks.
You betcha. Yeah, it's not fun. And it's a very, very rough process to get through, and getting your people to give you their tasks. I mean, I know it's easier just to write down what they're doing. If you don't get their list from them and you just write down what they're doing, that's where you're not going to have complete buy-in, and you might hit some brick walls where, well, I just don't do that. Okay, well, if this has to be done, somebody on your team needs to do it, or you need to convince them that they need to do it for you because your stuff's going to be smoother if they do. So if they just don't do it, then you need to decide if that's important enough to keep. And is that if that's a value proposition that makes you stand out over your clients, then you want to keep it in there. If it's something just busy work, then they might convince you that it is busy work and it's not necessary and it can be done. Or can it be automated? And that's where I find that I can automate a lot more things than I thought I could before I wrote it down. And if you have too many hands-on things, you're not going to be able to process that. Now you're relying back on the humans to run the system. And if it doesn't get done, is it going to affect you getting that deal closed? It's a process, guys. And that's where this is the kind of thing that we're going to work on our one-on-one calls on. And we're just going to hammer our way through. It's not something you'll get done on one call. It may take several calls. It might take 3 months of just working on this. It doesn't mean that has to be the whole conversation of our call. However, we are checking in on it and making sure you're making progress to get this system created. So if you think you got the system down, just use me to review it. But that's all I've got for you on this today. I just wanted to set the framework for this, that this is on many, many one-on-one calls with people. And it is probably 90% of everyone's main, like if they could make this go away, these things slipping through the cracks, and they could smooth out the process and not disappoint their real estate agents and the clients, it would make their life easier. So it's that important and that critical that I wanted to cover this so you could see an overview of it. It's been
Thank you,
fun
Brad.
hanging out. Yeah, go ahead. You bet.
Is it possible to get that Excel that updated that 33 touch just to have some framework? And I know
Framework?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I will drop that in the group email and I'll just send it back out as an attachment to everyone.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. All right, thank you so much.
Bet, guys. If I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving. And I think
And
I'll
you
talk to you in
too.
just a little bit, Jordan.
Thank you, Brad.
Yep, see you in a little bit.
All right. Make sure this recording gets done.